Also, LeBron James equals 51 and 114, just like St. Michael. Of course, LeBron equals 33. James equals 33. Michael equals 33. Remember, LeBron James's birthday was in 1984. Jesuit equals 84. It was 3 months, 3 days after the 444th anniversary of the Jesuits. The word Jesus equals 444. Supposedly died age 33. LeBron has a really special birthday in regards to the Jesuits. So I also looked up when Michael is mentioned in the Bible and whatnot. And interesting that he's mentioned in Daniel 12:1, and it's where Daniel's informed Michael will arise in the time of the end. And the reason that's so interesting to me is Daniel 12:1, and my name equals 121. Revelation equals 121. My name is Daniel. And there was all them other connections in regards to the book of Daniel 10:12 that I was supposed to see. I even talked about how Gabriel only comes to Daniel, Zechariah, and also Mary, and she lets Mary know that she's going to birth Jesus Christ and whatnot. I'll leave a link to my Angel Gabriel video in the description because there's a whole lot of stuff going on with it. I also wrote in here that as I was typing this, I kept seeing the blanket on the bed move, and it was just freaking me out. I was like, what in the world is that? It turned out to be my cat named Cuddles. Cuddles equals 121. And also 326, just like my girlfriend's last name, Cowgill. Just this is the number I said. It's something to do with Gabriel. Lots of stuff that in the video that I'm going to leave in the description. I also noted that Michael is mentioned in Revelation, and that's where he defeats Satan. And in the war in heaven or whatever, war in heaven equals 120. Archangel Michael equals 120. It even talked about in Jude, some interpret verse 9 as being an allusion to Zechariah 3:1-2, a lot like 312. I thought was pretty interesting. And Michael's feast day is also celebrated on September 29th, which is also Kevin Durant's birthday. And then I'm talking about the 312 connected to Rihanna, who was, talking smack to Kevin Durant, yelling brick. So then as I was sitting there, I was just trying to think of stuff in regards to the angel Michael that, right off the top of my head, something that I would think of. And the first thing that I thought of was John Travolta, because he plays Michael in the movie Michael. And it reminded me of the other night when I was talking about all these priest things, and, I was watching the film Spotlight, and then I randomly turned it to South Park, and the South Park child molest and priest episode was on, and it was after The Simpsons got over, and I talked about how Father Howard, the priest who was at my church who got in trouble for molesting kids and whatnot, I talked about how he last was the priest at Simpson College and some other stuff. But that Simpsons episode was all about Sideshow Bob getting out of jail or whatever, and then he's going to kill Bart in the 4 or 5 county thing where he could get away with it. And for one, that's interesting because the town that I live in is in 4 different counties. But the episode was a spoof of the John Travolta movie and Nicolas Cage movie Face Off. And The Simpsons have been something that have been used in things that I was guided to see. So I figured I would look up the 312th episode of The Simpsons and see if there's any, connection in regards to it. During the Super Bowl, all the stuff that was connected to my uncle was all about the Miami Dolphins and him giving me this Dan Marino jersey. And Dan Marino was only in, I made a post about Dan Marino clear back in the NFL draft that led me to watch The Simpsons because Prince was also murdered on The Simpsons and some other things. And the only episode that Dan Marino is in of The Simpsons happened to be season 10, episode 12. Once again, like I was saying, the book of Daniel and Daniel 10:12. That's also the day Christopher Columbus supposedly discovered America. And then my uncle, a knight of Columbus, and a bunch of other things. But in that Dan Marino episode of The Simpsons, it was all about Super Bowl 33. It aired even the same day as Super Bowl 33, and that was the last time the Falcons were in the Super Bowl, and the Falcons lost to the Broncos, but the Simpsons said that the Falcons beat the Broncos. That same day was also the day that the first ever Family Guy ever aired, and it even opens up with a Brady Bunch skit, and then we had Tom Brady win the Super Bowl. I mean, I covered a whole lot of stuff extensively. I'm not going to re-explain it. But I just wanted to note that The Simpsons are important. These cartoons are, for whatever the reason, they're coded to things to, I don't know, somehow they're giving me a better understanding. So I looked up the 312th episode of The Simpsons. It's called The Bart of War. Interesting, even directed by somebody named Michael. I never saw that before. What was so interesting about it is that the episode starts off with Bart and Milhouse watching South Park, and then Marge turns the channel because she doesn't want them to watch a bad show like South Park. And the night before, after The Simpsons were over and I was watching the Spotlight film, I turned on South Park just as a joke, and it was the Catholic priest molesting episode, and then I ended up turning it to Mickey Mouse or whatever, but South Park was involved with The Simpsons. So anyway, I noted that this episode was called The Bart of War, and it came out May 18th of 2003, and the last episode of South Park to come out before this episode was called Red Man's Greed. Once again, connecting to this Native American theme that I was also following a whole lot last year, why I thought the Indians would be in the World Series. And Native American just so happens to equal 135, just like Gabriel. Also equals 63, another number that is super connected to the Jesuits. So then I thought, I wonder if South Park has a 312th episode. And they don't have a 312th episode. They have a season 3, episode 12. Which, interesting, it came out on my 17th birthday. I thought was pretty interesting. And whatever, then I went and watched this episode because I figured might as well watch the episode and see what it all entails. And it literally starts off with Bart and Milhouse watching South Park, and Marge doesn't want him to watch it, so she turns the channel. But just before she does that, Bart says he can't believe how South Park keeps it fresh after only 43 episodes. Well, look at South Park, Season 3, Episode 12. Also, the 43rd episode. So, the 312th episode of The Simpsons references the 43rd episode of South Park, which is also Season 3, Episode 12. And when Marge turns it, she turns it to PAX TV, and she says they're going to watch a show about the everyday problems of angels. And think about that. I'm talking about how this is connected to the angel Michael and Gabriel. She turns it to the everyday problems of angels. And I also noticed that PAX TV in reverse Sumerian equals 312. It's a form I've never talked about, but just interesting that in any form whatsoever, it would equal 312. A number connected to the angel Michael. This is all about angels. And then these two episodes are actually interrelated through the number 312 connected to Michael. So just going to end it there. Just wanted to show a bunch of stuff in regards to why Rihanna was at Game 1 and why she was the star of Game 1 of the NBA Finals. And also some of these, odd experiences that happened in my own life and how it's connected to these cartoons. I mean, the odds of these two episodes being connected in such a random way, it's just insane. And it's connected to what I was talking about and, things that I have been trying to understand and think about. But moving on, I want to make a whole bunch more posts. There's so much going on. There's something very fishy with the Philando Castile footage that they just released. Supposedly released the cops footage of what really happened. And it's almost like everything was filmed in reverse. It doesn't make that much sense, but anyway, peace.